This week has seen lawmakers in the Democratic Republic of Congo elect Jeanine Mabunda as the head of the National Assembly. Plus, China cancels all interest-free loans it had advanced to Ethiopia as at the end of 2018. This is Africa Focus. Here's a peek of the stories in store today.
Tackling the business of targeted kidnappings in the island nation of Madagascar. South Africa's do-it-yourself diamond miners emerged from the shadows. Where's promised land? Rights dispute reignites Liberia.
I'm Lenny Rashid, and our sign language interpreter is Teresia Washira. Before we get into the main stories, let's take a look at the news that made the headlines around the continent.
Mali President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta appointed Finance Minister Boubou Cisse as Prime Minister on Monday, days after the government resigned following pressure to respond to the vigilante massacre of about 160 Fulani herders, which shocked the nation. Mali's former Prime Minister Somolu Bobia Maiga and his government quit last week after they came under fierce criticism for failing to disarm militias and beat back Islamist militants, stoking the violence that led to the massacre. Both Mali and neighboring Burkina Faso have been hit by the rise in hostilities fueled by Islamist militants seeking to extend their influence over the Sahel, an arid region between Africa's northern Sahara Desert and its southern savannas. Authorities in South Africa have indicated that the death toll from floods and mudslides that crashed homes in the South African port of Durban on Tuesday rose to 33, with the reports of children missing and scores of people displaced. The government have said that at least 145 people have been displaced. Heavy rains have lashed South Africa in recent days, with the southern and eastern parts of the country badly hit since the start of Easter weekend. Government said dozens of incidents of collapsed walls and flooded homes were reported throughout the night, as roads were also flooded. Those killed were either crushed to death by mudslides or drowned in floodwaters. The South African Weather Services warned that more heavy rain and gale force winds were expected until Wednesday, which could threaten low-lying bridges and roads. Also in South Africa, Julius Malema, leader of the left-wing South African opposition party, Economic Freedom Fighters, says the party is hoping for a 50% plus share of the vote in the 8th of May elections. Malema is confident of winning large support among the youth of South Africa, but says he has been surprised by the positive response to his party from the elderly. EFF was formed in 2013 by former African National Congress members. The party embraced a leftist stand and touted economic emancipation. The party made an impressive debut in the 2014 elections, winning about 6% of the national vote, enough to give the EFF 25 seats in the National Assembly. Egypt's President Fattah el-Sisi says that the world must find a solution for the Libyan crisis. Speaking at an African leaders conference discussing the Libyan crisis, Sisi said Libya police and army must provide stability and safety and counter the armed factions. Forces supporting Libya's internationally recognized government pushed back troops loyal to Eastern Commander Khalifa Haftar to more than 60 kilometers southwest of the capital Tripoli. Haftar's Libyan National Army, which is allied to a rival government in eastern Libya, mounted an offensive on Tripoli almost 3 weeks ago, but despite heavy fighting last week, it has failed to breach the city's southern defenses. A Senegalese court on Tuesday began the long-awaited trial of a religious leader and 21 disciples accused of the murder of 2 renegade followers in 2012. In a case frightened with repercussions, one of the accused is Sheikh Bedio, who leads a major group in the Moride Brotherhood, a Sufi order of Islam that wields great political influence in Senegal. The trial, unfolding over 6 sections at Bor, about 80 kilometers southeast of Dakar, began amid tight security. The case turns on the gruesome killing on 22nd of April 2012 of 2 young men whose badly beaten bodies were found 800 meters from Don's home, Sambalobe, western Senegal. His followers are accused of brutally killing the pair at his residence and tossing their bodies in a shallow grave. The murder has turned a spotlight on the role of charismatic leaders in Senegal, where 90% of the population are Muslim and many are members of the Moride Brotherhood. The first 2 planes purchased in a bid to relaunch Ugandan Airlines were delivered on Tuesday, nearly 2 decades after the East African country's national carrier collapsed. The two Bombardier CRJ-900 jet airliners, which can carry up to 90 people, landed at the Entebbe airport outside the capital Kampala during a ceremony attended by President Yoweri Museveni. European aerospace giant Airbus, meanwhile, will deliver two long-haul planes in 2020 or 2021. Uganda Airlines CEO Ephraim Bagenda said the first flights on the revived national carrier will take place in July once a 90-day certification process was completed. East Africa's newest carrier plans to start with flights to regional neighbors in Eastern and Southern Africa before expanding into Europe, Asia and the Middle East.
For years, kidnapping gangs have operated largely with impunity in Madagascar, targeting Karanas of Indian origin, an ethnic minority group. They form a 15,000-strong community renowned for its wealth and success in business. Recent developments, though, indicate that authorities in the large Indian Ocean island nation are beginning to crack down on the gangs.
1 year ago, Madagascan businessman Danny Ismail faced a parent's worst nightmare. His 26-year-old son Yanish was kidnapped for ransom.
For a week he was hooded, so in total darkness. Then the negotiations began until a ransom was paid.
Kidnapping gangs have operated largely with impunity in Madagascar for years, targeting the Indian-Pakistani minority locally known as the Karana. Yanish's ordeal went on for 23 days.
He had no idea if it was day or night. The only time he knew it was daytime was when he went out to the bathroom. It was only there where there was a bit of light.
In the last 10 years, at least 100 kidnappings have targeted Karanas in the country. Members of the minority group have long occupied influential posts in business and finance, and the country's richest men are Karana entrepreneurs. Authorities say the organized gangs involved in kidnappings also regularly stage armed holdups. Several years ago, Thierry was attacked in his shop.
Two people came, and there was one person with his gun. The second one, he pushed me. I fell, and one got on top of me and said, "Where's the money?"
A special unit has been created to combat the recent surge in kidnapping, but many locals are still afraid to go to police.
We believe that the cases where people didn't complain were due to fear, because we've heard that the kidnappers, they threatened the victim again if they reported it afterwards. They threatened to kill them.
Since the unit's creation 8 months ago, it has opened investigations into 9 cases. 19 people are awaiting trial for related crimes. But as authorities crack down, for some Karanas, fear of kidnapping is now also accompanied by fear of backlash.
Clara Maitse, a 77-year-old grandmother, has been arrested 7 times over for the past decade for illegally mining precious stones in Kimberley, South Africa's diamond hub. Her defiant patience has paid off. Small-scale mining, an industry that employs thousands of people, has now been decriminalized for the first time under a permit system.
77-year-old Clara Maitse was a zama, the South African word for an illegal diamond miner, until the government's recent landmark decision to begin decriminalizing the practice. The country was built on mines, both legal and illegal, and although a legal permit has made her life easier, Clara was never scared of being a zama.
Yeah. No, why would I be afraid? The land belongs to us black people. I can't be scared. We already voted for Mandela.
Clara, a former domestic worker, was arrested 7 times in the past decade for daring to do the back-breaking task of solo mining while bringing up 11 children and several grandchildren. She is one of 800 miners based outside Kimberley in South Africa's Northern Cape province who have been given permits to mine a 500-hectare piece of land owned by a formal mining outfit.
Yes, I think it's been a long time coming. I think it's something that we always envisaged could and should happen in the longer run.
Deputy Mining Minister Godfrey Willifant has made legalizing small-scale miners like Clara his pet project, believing it will help fight mining crime and exploitation.
When we gave them license, you could see the sparkle in their eyes. When we give them license to trade and deal with diamonds, you could see that you brought about a difference, positive difference in the lives of people. So that's why we're excited.
Elisa Lowe, a 47-year-old mother of 5 who joined the Zama Zamas in 2013 after her divorce, is another community member benefiting from decriminalization. Before the law changed, she mobilized her fellow illegal miners and lobbied the regional government for recognition.
Yes, to have the permits is a miracle in our lives. It is a happiness for us all. The permits have opened doors that have been closed to us and built up our self-confidence.
Zama Zama means to take a chance, and for years that's exactly what these small-scale miners have done. Tough living conditions and frequent violent clashes between miners and security forces have made life grindingly harsh. But these miners are hopeful that they'll no longer have to risk their lives to put food on the table.
Coming up after the break.
Gaming enthusiasts and developers come together to share their ideas at Benin's biggest hackathon.
We're about to take a water break. Don't touch that dial. Keep it switched. Welcome back. In case you just joined us, you're watching Africa Focus. Today's sign language interpreter is Teresia Washira. In Liberia, the dispute over land ownership dates back to the mid-19th century. It could now define the presidency of George Weah, the ex-football star sworn into office last year. This West African country is one of the world's poorest, ranking 177th out of the 188 countries on the UN's Human Development Index. But its rubber, iron ore, and more recently palm oil represent rare examples of foreign investment and sources of tax revenue.
In this field in northwest Liberia, young palm oil trees extend as far as the eye can see, in place of what inhabitants of the neighbouring village were hoping would be a clinic or a school. The trees belong to the Malaysian company Siem Darby, one of 4 big palm oil producers operating in the West African country.
We all came there and told them, well, this piece of land we wanted for development. So we beg people to leave this land for us for development. And how they left the piece of land. While we were negotiating what kind of development should come on the land, when we got ready, they said we should write.
In Liberia, the vast majority of land belongs by default to the state, which can grant companies concessions to exploit its resources. Taxes from palm, iron and rubber farms are a lifeline for the small, impoverished nation as it slowly recovers from 14 years of civil war. While villagers say the opaque nature of the contracts signed in their absence means they have little knowledge of what has been agreed, community leaders insist that the agreements are all above board.
What we've done, that was done at the highest level, through our representatives and the senators.
A draft law aimed at regulating these practices has been in the pipeline for 4 years. If adopted, it would constitute the first step towards resolving a decades-old conflict over land ownership that dates back to the late 19th century when Liberia was founded.
These communities that have known to themselves over time that they own the land. But in actuality, under the legal framework, the land is not really theirs. They're basically squatting on the land. So what this land rights bill seeks to do is to give these real owners the land that they own.
During former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's 12 years in power, several multi-decade concession agreements were renewed or changed hands, throwing new scrutiny on land deals. The government of new President George Weah is expected to reconsider the land rights bill, which could impact the lives of millions of Liberians.
Hiking is slowly gaining traction in Africa's most populous nation. Nigeria is a hiker's paradise with its various hills and mountains. In Abuja, Nigeria's capital, Katambe Hills is becoming increasingly popular with young adventure seekers. These amateur hikers take on the sport to escape from everyday stress as they exercise and make new friends.
Spiraling violence in the past robbed Nigeria of outstanding natural beauty. However, tired of the unrest, young hikers have now decided to revive the country's tourism through hiking. Hiking is thus slowly gaining ground in Nigeria, and it's no surprise as it is a hiker's paradise with various hills and mountains. Joseph Babade, founder of Adventure Seekers, and a few others continue to defy insecurity to chart new trails and kickstart tourism in various breathtaking locations in Nigeria's capital, such as this one known as Katambe Hills. Joseph says that there are now over 60 hiking locations.
We do adventures to promote tourism in Nigeria. We notice a lot of people travel out to have fun, to see things, and we have a lot of things in Nigeria which we also need to promote.
For most of the trails, one usually needs a guide for now, especially in areas where there are no trails marked out or rescue lines available to get you out of whatever bind you might find yourself in. Guides are available at most of the places for a fee. So popular are the excursions, now seen as a sport, that there is a burst of new clubs to keep up with the demand. There are many beautiful landscapes and a lot of breathtaking views. This is sure to make the sometimes arduous climb worth it and give the hikers a chance to get away from the daily stresses of life.
We make sure we bring out the fun of what we do. In as much as we're doing exercise, in it we bring out fun. But then, as you can see, it's good for the health.
Hiking helps you for connectivity. It helps you to meet people. It helps you to, make friends. It helps your body system. It helps you to discover places.
Hiking all depends on the pace being used and your fitness level. The time of the hike also matters, as it's much easier to set out earlier in the day. Many join in the hiking activities for sights, barbecues and waterfall dips on excursions.
I think Nigeria should watch out for a lot of collaborations like this, because a lot of young people in Nigeria are coming together to celebrate the oneness in this country, the unity. So hiking, in the process of it, you get to meet others from different tribes, from different culture, from different business orientation.
There are various types of hikings in Nigeria, ranging from day hiking, multi-day hiking that involves camping out in the nature and returning to the trail the next day, section hiking that entails walk tours for only part of the entire journey, and also through hiking, where one hikes over thousands of miles. The Adventure Seekers group of Abuja currently has more than 100 members on its list, and they foresee a huge increase in the number of members in the near future.
Dozens of graffiti artists from around the globe descended on the capital of Senegal, Dakar, last week during an annual street art festival. The artists kicked off with a collaborative fresque that includes a massive portrait of Senegal's resistant hero Aline Sitoé Diatta, this year's chosen Festigraph patron.
Festigraph is the brainchild of local graffiti artist Doctor, whose motivation a decade ago was to engage people and get them to think about health, politics and the environment through street culture.
It's rewarding, it motivates, it allows to really create together, to bring something even in areas that not everyone masters, and so to have a mural that is very complete. For example, I made the portrait. You also have the letters, deco, abstract elements and animals. We are all complementary and we really create something together.
It was a way for us to communicate her message, because her message doesn't really circulate like it should. For example, in school, we speak for Sitoé Diatta, but in 2 or 3 paragraphs, and now it is over. Given the fight she has led all her life, she deserves to be spoken about. Graffiti allows us to do this because the moral can stay here for years. You can come back in 10 years and you'll see Siti Diatta and you will remember her message.
Dr. said he wanted to pay homage to the women who fought for black civilization. Previous Festigraph patrons include icons such as anti-colonial leader Amilcar Cabral and Ghana's Kwame Nkrumah.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the paint dries very quick because of the sun, which is good, and the energy from just the environment is enough to inspire you to just want to do good, you know? You feel good in this country. You want to project that from the depth within into what you're painting generally. But yeah, it's lovely. First time painting in Dakar.
Diatta, who was born in Senegal between 1910 and 1920, led a resistance movement against French colonial rule and was finally arrested by the French authorities and died in prison in 1944. Diatta is therefore considered a national hero today. 17 graffiti artists from France, England, Senegal, Gambia and Kenya joined hands and shared spray cans to create the first street painting of the festival, which ends with the motto, "Protect our riches."
I see that, it's very nice. And I often see people looking at the mural. Some take pictures and some take videos. The one that was painted last year was replaced. But it doesn't stop people from checking out the new mural. In general, they come from far, and even people who look at my furniture can't stop looking at the mural.
The 10-day festival showcases hip-hop concerts, dance and graffiti battles, while artists create frescoes in other parts of the city.
Young game developers recently came together to share their ideas at Benin's Game Jam. The event aims at stimulating the creative talent in the country. Some hope that the event will also be an opportunity for developers to discuss game ideas that could positively represent Africa on the international stage.
West Africa lags behind the Northern Hemisphere when it comes to software development, but moves are afoot to tap into a growing interest in the region and across the continent. At a large hotel in Cotonou, Benin held its first hackathon where participants were given just 24 hours to try and create a fun and educational video game for mobile phones.
The Benin Game Jam is one of the first initiatives that aims to stimulate the ecosystem to measure the potential of the Beninese ecosystem in relation to the video game industry, to know who are the fans who are passionate about video games in Benin, and also who are the content creators and therefore the creators of video games.
The video games market was bigger than the music and cinema markets, generating $138 billion worldwide. This is according to Newzoo, which specializes in data on the sector. However, Africa is estimated to represent just 1% of that market, making it an area ripe for development and job creation.
We are completely prepared to help them towards an entrepreneurial project to see how we can make their video game ideas reality. Because you know that they had 24 hours to propose an idea, to propose a demo, so obviously the game will not be finished, but we want to be able to go all the way with the 3 best ideas and allow them to create a video game that will be available on the Play Store or the Apple Store.
Sur le Play Store ou sur l'Apple Store.
25-year-old Lorenda Abo started playing on a console at a video club run by her father for just 25 francs a game. Now she develops websites and games for mobile phones.
Pendant un bon moment, pour moi un jeu vidéo c'est un jeu vidéo du moment que je m'amuse ou j'apprends.
For me, a video game is a video game, as long as I have fun or learn something. But growing up, for a few years now, I have been thinking that a video game that bears an African culture identity could be exported, so that Europeans and Westerners could see Africa differently.
Les Européens ou bien, c'est pas, les Occidentaux puissent voir l'Afrique autrement. Voilà.
Depuis adolescent, on jouait, on aimait jouer.
We've loved playing games since adolescence, but we were always playing games from other countries. So if we get to a level where African programmers think about finding a way to develop ideas through video games to somehow solve the problems facing Africa, it's a good initiative.
qui se pose à l'Afrique. C'est une bonne initiative.
Games were awarded prizes for the quality of the story, creativity, and possible future development. And talent may have been unearthed, but exploiting it is the next challenge. For developers, it is the private sector that is the most promising source of funding.
On Africa Focus, we love hearing from you, so make sure you get interactive with us on our various social media pages. Remember, you can view this program along with a wide array of other programs on DSTV channel 268 and on ASAN TV channel 138. On behalf of the entire team here on Africa Focus, thank you for keeping us company on this exciting journey. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.